Move out of my way, Clara. You're blocking the road like the useless obstacle you've always been. Those were the first words he spat at her, before she even understood the danger, before the car lunged forward, roaring like an angry animal, tires slicing through the pooled rainwater on the roadside. Clara didn't even have time to raise her hands. The muddy water slammed against her like the force of a bucket thrown from full power, drenched her dress, soaked her hair, stung her skin, and swallowed her breath. Her hands immediately shielded her belly. "Baby," she gasped. Cars slowed around them, drivers staring. A few pedestrians froze. One person even pulled out a phone. But the man behind the wheel, her ex-husband Michael Grant, just leaned out through the open window, laughing. "Still pathetic, aren't you? I knew you'd end up alone on the street. Look at you, pregnant," he snorted. "Whoever knocked you up must be as desperate as you are." Clara didn't move. Couldn't. Her heart slammed painfully against her ribs, not from the cold, but from the shock of hearing his voice again. The voice that once controlled her life, dictated her dreams, and destroyed her self-worth. She whispered only one thing, barely audible. "Please, not now." Michael heard it. His grin widened, cruel and triumphant. A woman leaned over from the passenger seat, a familiar face with bright red lipstick and a smug expression. Eva. Michael's mistress. The woman he had flaunted openly during the last year of their marriage, the one he swore was just a colleague, the one he defended even after Clara found hotel receipts and messages that still burned in her mind. Eva laughed, brushing a hand over Michael's shoulder. "Mike, she looks even worse than before. Oh, sad. And that bump. Really? She probably trapped some poor fool." Clara stepped back instinctively, one hand on her belly, the other trembling at her side. She wasn't thinking about herself. She was thinking of the small life growing inside her. Don't get stressed. Don't panic. Breathe. That's what her doctor always told her. But how could she breathe when the past had just slammed into her like a speeding car? Another car slowed behind Michael's. The driver honked. Michael ignored them. "Clara, listen," he said, leaning even further out. "Whatever trashy life you're living now, you deserve it. After everything I did for you, you repay me by leaving, running away, filing for divorce like some saint." Clara felt the familiar ache, a buried wound ripped open again. But she also felt something else beneath it. Anger. Not loud, explosive anger. Quiet, steady flame. She stood straighter. And that irritated him. Michael's eyes narrowed. "What? You think because you slapped on a cheap dress and found a new low-life boyfriend you matter now?" Eva giggled. "Babe, she definitely looks like she's working in one of those cheap downtown cafes." Clara didn't answer. Not because she was weak, but because something inside her had changed. Something they didn't know, something they would have nightmares about once the truth surfaced. She touched her necklace. Gold, simple, elegant. A gift from her new husband. Not that Michael needed to know that. Not yet. Not before the Sterling security team arrived. Not before the city would learn exactly how big of a mistake he was making. Michael scoffed at her silence. "Typical. Can't even defend yourself. You never could." A few onlookers muttered under their breath. "That's too much. Isn't she pregnant? Record them." Phones rose. Michael didn't notice or didn't care. He was too high on his own cruelty. "Tell me something, Clara," he mocked. "Are you even sure the baby's father knows? Or are you keeping him in the dark like you kept me in the dark about every little?" Clara's voice cut through the rain. Deadly controlled. "Michael, drive away." He blinked. "What did you say?" "Drive away," she repeated, her eyes no longer trembling. "Before you get consequences you can't handle." Eva rolled her eyes. "Hear that? She thinks she's someone now." Clara didn't react. Instead, she glanced around slowly, as if waiting. Michael followed her gaze. A sleek black SUV was pulling onto the street. The kind of vehicle that makes people step aside. Tinted windows, polished chrome, and a custom license plate. Phil 01. Clara sighed in relief. Too late, she whispered. The SUV stopped abruptly. The back door swung open. Two men in black suits stepped out. Broad shoulders, discreet earpieces, calm faces trained to scan a threat in a millisecond. People around them whispered with excitement. Sterling Security. Oh my God. Who is that woman? Is she related to the Sterlings? Michael's expression changed. Confusion, annoyance, then irritation as one of the security men approached him. Sir, the guard said calmly, please turn off the engine and exit the vehicle. Michael scoffed. Excuse me. Do you know who I am? Yes, the guard said without emotion. A man who just assaulted Mrs. Sterling with his vehicle. Michael froze. Mrs. who? The guard stepped aside. From the back seat of the SUV, a tall man emerged. Sharp jaw, storm gray eyes, black coat tailored to perfection. Presence like gravity, pulling all attention toward him. Adrian Sterling, billionaire heir, waiting. Clara's new husband. He walked directly to Clara, not rushing, not panic, but with a fierce, controlled protectiveness that made everyone step back. He removed his coat, draped it over her shoulders, and gently touched her chin, checking her face, her breathing. Are you hurt? His voice was deep, steady, but laced with fury he was barely suppressing. Clara shook her head. He exhaled slowly, but his eyes were already locked on Michael. Who? Adrian asked the guard quietly. Did this to my wife? The guard gestured at Michael. Ava swallowed hard. Babe, who is he? Michael stepped out of the car, trying to regain confidence. I didn't know she was. I mean, she walked in the way, the puddle. But Adrian didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Power didn't shout. Suffocated. You will apologize, Adrian said, each word cold enough to cut steel. And then you will answer for what you did today. Michael stiffened. Or what? The guard lifted a phone, showing him the live video stream already online. Viewers were commenting. Thousands. Who is this man abusing a pregnant woman? Security stepping in. This is crazy. Wait, did they say Sterling? The view count ticked up in real time. Michael paled. Ava whispered. Mike, this is bad. But Adrian wasn't done. He gently held Clara's hand. We're going to the hospital to check the baby, he murmured. After that, Clara, your ex-husband's future is going to look very, very different. Then he turned to the camera phones around them. His voice softened, still controlling the scene, still commanding attention. If you've ever suffered humiliation or abuse, he said, subscribe and share this, because today we're going to show exactly what justice looks like. People gasped. Phones kept recording. The video kept spreading. And just like that, the world began watching the downfall of Michael Grant. The ride to the hospital was silent, but not empty. Clara sat in the back seat of the Sterling SUV, Adrian beside her, one arm around her shoulders, the other resting over her hand protectively. His thumb brushed against her knuckles, slow, steady, grounding her heartbeat. She tried to breathe, but her chest was tight. Not from fear of Michael. Not anymore. But from the shock of having her past collide so violently with her present. Are you feeling any pain? Adrian asked quietly. No, Clara whispered. Just shaken. He nodded, but she could tell he didn't believe that was all. Adrian Sterling always saw beneath the surface. That was what terrified her in the beginning. That was what saved her in the end. The doctor met them immediately. Sterling priority. Clara lay on the examination bed while the gel spread across her stomach, cool and soft. Adrian held her hand the entire time, his thumb never stopping its gentle rhythm. The screen flickered. A heartbeat fluttered. Clara's chest loosened as tears filled her eyes. The doctor smiled. Baby's strong. No signs of distress. You're both safe. Adrian exhaled a breath he'd been holding since the moment he saw her drenched and trembling on the street. He kissed her forehead, quick but full of emotion he rarely let anyone see. Clara grabbed his sleeve. Adrian, thank you. His jaw tightened. Don't thank me. What happened shouldn't have happened. And it will never happen again. The doctor left them alone, but neither spoke for a long moment. Clara looked at him, seeing the shift in his expression, the calm surface cracking to let the storm show through. He wasn't angry. He was furious. She had learned to recognize the difference. He finally spoke. Why didn't you call me the moment you realized you were near him? I didn't know, she murmured. I was walking to the community library. I didn't expect him to be there, Adrian. It's been almost a year. He ran a hand through his hair. He drenched you with mud. While you're pregnant. While he knew exactly what he was doing. Clara swallowed. He didn't know I was your wife. Even worse, Adrian said. He thought he could treat you that way because he believed you had no one. Her voice broke a little. That's all he made me believe for years. That I had no one. That I would always be nothing. Adrian lifted her chin gently. Look at me. She did. You will never be nothing, he said. Not while I'm breathing. Her heart squeezed. He meant it. Not dramatically, not theatrically. He meant it the way he breathed. Steadily, consistently, without hesitation. A soft knock interrupted them. One of Adrian's security officers stepped in. Sir, the video from the incident is everywhere. It has crossed 2 million views in less than 40 minutes. Clara's breath caught. 2 million. The officer nodded. News platforms are uploading copies. Commentators are identifying Mrs. Sterling. Michael Grant's name has been mentioned repeatedly. It's spreading fast. Clara sat up straighter, panic flashing across her face. Adrian, I didn't want this to become. He touched her cheek. Clara. He humiliated you publicly. The world is simply seeing who he really is. But. No, Adrian's voice softened. You're not defending him again. She closed her mouth. He was right. She had spent years defending the indefensible. She would not walk backward. The officer continued. Sir, we also received a call from Mr. Lawrence. Adrian's father. Clara's new father-in-law. The man whose voice could shift stock markets and whose decisions shaped nations. What did he say? Adrian asked. He asked one question. Is my daughter safe? Clara lowered her head, emotional. Lawrence Sterling had called her that. His daughter, since the day Adrian brought her home to meet him. No skepticism, no test, no hesitation. Just acceptance. And he wants to see both of you tonight, the officer added. Adrian nodded. We'll go. The officer hesitated. There's more. Michael Grant has begun posting online. He's calling Mrs. Sterling unstable, manipulative, claiming she staged the incident to get attention. Clara went cold. The familiarity of those accusations stabbed old wounds. Adrian stood instantly. Get every clip. Every post. Archive it. Yes, sir. Clara touched his arm. Adrian, let it go. That's what he does. Manipulates. Twists the truth. Adrian leaned down, kissed her forehead gently. I'm not letting anything go. She didn't argue this time. When they left the hospital, the evening sky was dimming. Cameras and phones were everywhere. People pretending not to watch but watching everything. Clara stepped closer to Adrian. He immediately put an arm around her, shielding her from the flashes. In the SUV, she stared at the passing streetlights. Do you think this will stop him? The video, the backlash. Adrian looked out at the road, expression unreadable. This won't stop him. Her heart sank. This will destroy him. His voice was calm, matter of fact, certain. She turned to him fully. Adrian. Don't do anything that could make this spiral. He's already losing everything. Maybe that's enough. He looked at her, eyes soft but jaw firm. Clara, he didn't just hurt you today. He hurt my family. He endangered our child. He humiliated the Sterling name. And now he is trying to paint you as unstable. Clara lowered her gaze. I know. He reached for her hand, grounding her again. This is not revenge. This is accountability. He built an empire on deceit. Today the world pulled off the curtain. The SUV turned into the long gated drive of the Sterling estate, large iron gates rising as the guards saluted. Clara stared out at the sweeping fields, the grand home glowing with warm golden lights. She remembered the first time she walked through those gates, trembling, unsure if she belonged in a world this grand. Now she belonged more than ever. Inside the grand hall, Lawrence Sterling stood waiting. Distinguished, silver hair. A presence so powerful it filled the room effortlessly. He approached Clara first, not Adrian, and placed his hands gently on her shoulders. I saw the video, he said. Are you hurt, my dear? No, sir, Clara whispered. He frowned. How many times must I tell you? Call me Lawrence. Clara nodded, embarrassed. Lawrence's expression hardened, not toward her, but toward the memory of what he had seen. No man harms a woman carrying a Sterling and walks away untouched, he said. Tonight, we begin dismantling Michael Grant. Clara's breath caught. Lawrence, it's not necessary to. It is, he said simply. Not for revenge. For protection. For justice. For every woman who never got to defend herself. He rested a gentle hand on her cheek. And for you, daughter. Emotion filled her chest. No one had ever defended her like this. Not until this family. Lawrence nodded toward the dining room. Come. You need your strength. As she walked beside Adrian, Clara whispered. This is bigger than I expected. He squeezed her hand. You married into a storm-proof family. Then he leaned close to her ear, his voice low. And Michael has no idea what's coming. Clara couldn't eat. Not really. Her fork hovered above the plate, untouched. The Sterling estate's dining room was vast, warm, and filled with subtle golden light. Servants moved quietly, almost invisible, leaving her with the uneasy feeling that every detail was orchestrated, but it didn't feel intimidating. Felt protective. Almost sacred. Adrian watched her carefully, sensing her mind spinning. You need to eat, he said softly. You're carrying our child. You can't be faint or anxious. Clara forced a nod. I'm fine. You've been through enough today, he said. Tell me, Clara. Did it hurt? She swallowed. The words stuck in her throat. The physical pain was fleeting, but the emotional toll, that would linger. Every cruel word, every derisive laugh, every contemptuous glance from Michael and Ava replayed itself in her mind. Yes, she admitted finally. More than I thought it would. But it's over. Adrian shook his head. It's not over. Not until the world knows exactly who he is and what he did. Clara's stomach churned. She wanted peace, anonymity, quiet rebuilding of her life. But Adrian's determination was magnetic. When he focused, he drew her into the inevitability of his plans. Resistance wasn't an option. A soft knock interrupted the room. Sir, ma'am, one of the security officers said, stepping in. Michael Grant has been spotted leaving the city. He is attempting to flee to avoid legal scrutiny. Public backlash is growing by the minute. News crews have begun contacting the company he owns. Clara's chest tightened. She felt her old instincts kicking in, the ones that made her shrink, hide, try to survive. But Adrian's grip on her hand anchored her to the moment. Good, Adrian said, eyes narrowing. Let him run. The world will catch up to him soon enough. She looked up at him. Adrian, this is so fast. I can't. You can, he interrupted gently. Because you survived worse. And because you're not alone this time. You're not facing it alone. Not ever again. Her throat tightened. She swallowed hard, trying to push away the tremor of fear and adrenaline still coursing through her. Her hand instinctively went to her stomach, feeling the small, miraculous life growing there. You really think he'll lose everything? She asked quietly. Adrian's jaw tightened. I don't think. No. He humiliated you publicly. The internet never forgets. Investors are already pulling out. Social media is amplifying his failures. Within 48 hours, his empire will feel the first cracks. And by the week's end. He didn't finish. She didn't need him to. Clara exhaled slowly. For the first time in years, she let herself imagine a future free of fear, ridicule, and pain. A future where she could breathe without flinching at every shadow. Her reverie broke as her phone vibrated. Text. From an unknown number. You don't know me, but Michael's in serious trouble. We need your testimony. He can't hide the truth anymore. She glanced at Adrian, who had seen the message. Who sent it? She asked. No idea, Adrian said, taking the phone and reading silently. But it's someone who knows him. Someone who's ready to help. Clara shivered. The idea of taking active part in her ex-husband's downfall was intoxicating and terrifying. Adrian's hand found hers again. We'll handle this together, he said. Every step, every phone call, every confrontation. Together. She nodded. Words failed her. She wanted to scream relief, gratitude, and hope all at once, but only a whisper emerged. Thank you for staying. Always, he murmured, leaning in to press his lips to her forehead again. The night deepened around the Sterling estate. Lights glimmered off the polished marble floors, the soft murmur of servants moving discreetly creating a rhythm almost like a heartbeat. Outside, rain began to fall lightly again. Clara watched through the window as it streaked the glass, a quiet echo of the chaos of the day. Her mind wandered. How different life could have been if she had stayed silent, stayed trapped, stayed believing she deserved Michael's cruelty. Instead, she had survived, escaped, and somehow, against all odds, found safety, love, and respect in Adrian and his family. She couldn't help thinking about Ava, the woman who had smiled so cruelly earlier, thinking she had won. She imagined the surprise on her face when the full truth of Michael's failure became public. Clara's lips curled into a small, almost guilty smile. Adrian noticed. Don't start celebrating too soon. Justice is a process, not a moment. I know, she whispered. But it feels inevitable, doesn't it? Yes, he said simply. And it will feel sweeter than anything you've ever imagined. The phone buzzed again. Another message. Michael Grant's board has begun emergency meetings. Investors are calling in loans. His public statements are being fact-checked live. The backlash is growing. Be ready. Clara's eyes widened. The numbers. The pace. It was moving faster than she could have imagined. Adrian took her hand, holding it tightly. I need you to promise me something, he said. What? Promise me you won't let fear make you shrink. You've come too far to hesitate now. She nodded, steadying herself. I promise. He gave her a small, approving smile, his hand lingering over hers. Good. Then let the world watch. Let them see who we really are, and who he really is. A few hours later, Clara's phone buzzed again. This time it was a video clip circulating on social media. An old recording Michael had made boasting about exploiting his employees, manipulating deals, and humiliating women in private. The audio was clear, the video damning. Clara's heart pounded. Adrian saw it too. This is going to escalate, he said. The board will act. Social media will act. And Michael will crumble faster than he can react. She swallowed. Part of her wanted to look away, to hide, to pretend none of this affected her. But another part, stronger, braver, felt satisfaction. Not cruel satisfaction. Relief. Truth prevailing. Karma finally catching up. She touched her stomach again. I hope for our baby's sake. It's finally over. Adrian squeezed her hand. It's just beginning. But it will end the way it should. Clara nodded, determination replacing fear. The baby inside her stirred. And with that tiny life, she felt a surge of power. Not just survival power but justice power. She would not be humiliated again. Not by Michael. Not by anyone. And tomorrow, the world would see the full force of the sterling name, and of her own unbroken spirit. As the night deepened, Clara whispered softly to her unborn child, "We're safe now, and we're going to win." The Sterling estate was quiet that night, but Clara couldn't sleep. The events of the day replayed relentlessly in her mind. The muddy splash, Michael's cruel laughter, Ava's smirk, Adrian's unwavering protection, the streaming videos, and the sudden avalanche of public attention. She walked down the long, dimly lit hallway toward the library, her fingers grazing the polished banister. Adrian had gone to coordinate with security, leaving her alone with her thoughts. Alone but not afraid anymore. Not completely. She sank into a leather armchair, letting the firelight warm her chilled body. Her mind drifted involuntarily back to 6 years ago, the beginning of her nightmare. She was 22, fresh out of university, ambitious, optimistic, and hopelessly naive. Michael had seemed charming then, the perfect gentleman with his tailored suits, sparkling blue eyes, and easy confidence. "You're incredible," he told her on their first date. "I've never met anyone like you." Clara had blushed, heart racing, convinced she had found her soulmate. The world had felt full of possibility, and she had believed that love could conquer everything. Didn't. By the end of the first year, subtle cracks appeared. At first, they were almost invisible. A comment on her dress, a mild criticism about the way she laughed at friends' jokes, questions about why she didn't cook properly. Then it escalated. "Why are you wearing that?" Michael snapped one evening, glaring at a simple blouse. "You know I like it when you look elegant. Stop embarrassing me in front of my clients." At first, Clara had apologized, thinking she was overreacting. But then came the isolating tactics, the constant comparisons to other women, the slow erosion of her confidence. Then the pregnancy. Clara had been so thrilled, so full of hope. And Michael had initially shared that excitement, bragging to friends, sending out social media announcements, planning a nursery. But once she lost the baby, Sophie, everything changed. His charm vanished. His anger surfaced. "You killed her," he spat one night. "You failed again like you always do." Those words had stayed with her, burned into her memory. She remembered the suffocating months of depression that followed, the therapy sessions, the constant reminder that she was less than barren, a disappointment. She had stayed trapped, afraid of what the world thought, afraid of losing the financial stability Michael promised, afraid that no one else would ever love her. Then came the divorce. The final straw had been catching him with Ava. She had walked into their shared apartment and seen him laughing, kissing, and whispering sweet nothings to another woman. Clara had stood frozen, heart breaking, chest aching, not just for herself, but for the child she would never get from him. The divorce had been messy. Michael had used every tactic to destroy her reputation, claiming she was unstable, a manipulative liar, even suggesting she had cheated. Friends had believed him at first. Colleagues had looked at her with pity. But she endured, surviving on a modest salary as a teacher, rebuilding herself slowly, cautiously, piece by piece. Then came Adrian Sterling. Their first meeting had been at a charity gala, a quiet affair compared to the chaos of her past. He had approached her gently, eyes curious but kind. "You look familiar," he had said with a small smile. "I don't think we've met," Clara had replied, confused but intrigued. "You could say we have," he said cryptically. "Some people leave a mark on your life even before you meet them." She had laughed nervously, thinking it was a strange line, but something in his presence had felt safe, real, different. Over the following months, they had gotten to know each other. He had been patient when she pulled away, consistent when she doubted herself, gentle when she revealed the scars Michael had left behind. Now, sitting in the quiet library, Clara let herself relive those moments, allowing a small smile to form. She had survived Michael once. She had survived therapy, judgment, humiliation, and loneliness. And now, with Adrian and his family, she had something she never thought she would. Safety, love, and the chance to reclaim her life fully. Her phone buzzed again, pulling her from her thoughts. A message from one of Adrian's security contacts. Michael Grant has been contacted by multiple media outlets. His employees are being questioned. There's panic among investors. We anticipate public statements by morning confirming board interventions. The collapse has begun. Clara felt a rush of vindication, but she didn't allow herself to revel too long. Adrian had warned her. This was a process. The storm was not over, and she needed to remain grounded. A soft knock at the library door startled her. Adrian entered. His expression calm but eyes sharp. "You've been thinking," he said, stepping closer. "It's visible." She nodded. "I was remembering how it all began. How I ended up here." He closed the door behind him, walking over to sit beside her. "I know some of it. Not everything. But enough to understand that you are not weak. You are remarkable." Clara leaned into him slightly, the warmth of his presence a balm to old wounds. "I don't feel remarkable. I feel lucky." "You're more than lucky," he said firmly. "You survived cruelty, betrayal, and despair. And now, look at you. Pregnant, safe, loved, ready to fight back against the man who thought he could destroy you. That's remarkable." A tear slipped down her cheek, and Adrian brushed it away gently. "This is the part where you stop hiding your strength," he whispered. "Not for anyone else. Not for Michael. For you. For your child." She nodded. Strength felt foreign sometimes, but she let herself take it. For the first time in years, she didn't shrink. She didn't apologize for existing. She didn't wait for someone else's validation. The firelight flickered, casting shadows across her face, and she realized something important. Michael had been powerful once. In her life, he had seemed unstoppable. But in reality, he was small. Petty. Cruel, yes, but utterly incapable of facing the truth about himself. And now the world was watching. Her phone buzzed again. A notification that Michael's company website had crashed under the weight of public backlash and media scrutiny. The stock price was already plummeting, and investors were pulling out faster than she could comprehend. Clara leaned back, breathing deeply, letting the realization sink in. "This is really happening," she whispered. Adrian took her hand again. "Yes, and you don't have to watch it alone. Remember that." She nodded. She had survived Michael once. She would survive him again. And this time she would win, not just for herself but for the life she carried, for Adrian, and for the sense of justice that the world demanded. She looked out the library window, rain streaking the glass, the lights of London flickering in the distance, and whispered softly, "You're not going to get away with this, Michael. Not now. Not ever." And for the first time she truly believed it. Clara awoke before dawn, her heart pounding as though she had been running in her sleep. A strange quiet filled the Sterling estate, not the soft peaceful quiet she was used to, but the tense, heavy silence that settles right before a storm. She sat up slowly, instinctively placing a hand over her stomach. The baby fluttered faintly, and the movement grounded her. She whispered a silent promise. "It's okay. I'm here. We're fine." But deep down, she knew the world outside was anything but fine. Her phone buzzed. Dozens of notifications flooded the screen. News alerts, social media tags, leaked footage, statements from Michael's employees, and something else that made her chest tighten. Someone had filmed the moment Michael splashed mud water on her. The angle wasn't clear enough to show her face, but it showed him. Laughing, pointing, revving the car engine beside Ava as if humiliating someone was a game. The video had already gone viral. Millions of views. Tens of thousands of comments condemning him. Clara swallowed hard. She didn't want to be famous for her pain. She didn't want pity. She didn't want sympathy. She wanted justice. Quiet, sharp, and deserved. Footsteps approached. Adrian entered the room. His hair slightly messy, exhaustion clouding his eyes. He'd clearly been up the entire night. "You saw it?" he asked gently. Clara nodded. "It's everywhere." He came to sit beside her. This isn't the worst of it. More will surface. What do you mean? Adrian hesitated, then handed her his tablet. On the screen lay a leaked email thread. Michael threatening employees, belittling female staff, mocking investors. Every message was time-stamped, undeniable. Her breath caught. How is this coming out so fast? Because people want to speak now, Adrian said. They're not afraid anymore. And because men like Michael leave trails. They always do. Clara leaned into the headboard, feeling the weight of everything pressing on her. Will this ruin him? It already has, Adrian replied. The board issued a temporary suspension last night. This morning they're voting on permanent removal. And someone inside is giving the media everything. Clara didn't speak. She didn't know how to process the idea that Michael, who once controlled every corner of her life, was now spiraling helplessly. Not because she fought him, but because his own cruelty was catching up with him. A small, almost trembling part of her felt vindicated. Finally. But then came a knock on the door. A more urgent one. Adrian's head snapped up. Come in. The head of security stepped inside. Sir, we have a situation. Clara's heart stuttered. Adrian stood instantly. What happened? It's Michael Grant, the guard said. He's been spotted driving toward the estate. Clara's blood froze. What? Why would he? He's agitated, the guard added. We intercepted audio through a public stream. He's shouting about betrayal, about people turning against him. And he mentioned her. Her heart dropped into her stomach. Me? Clara whispered. Yes, ma'am, the guard said. He's blaming you, saying he wouldn't be ruined if you had stayed quiet. He's unstable. Adrian's expression hardened. Cold, lethal, protective. Increase all surveillance. Close the front gates. Double the guards. No one gets near this estate, especially not him. Yes, sir. When the guard left, Adrian turned to Clara, his voice firm but softening at the edges. He's unraveling. And desperate men are dangerous. Clara's throat tightened. Do you think he'll actually try to come here? He might. Adrian reached for her hands. But you're safe. I won't let anything happen to you or the baby. You're protected here. Everywhere. Her eyes filled with tears she hadn't expected. Not fear, not exactly. More like disbelief. A part of her still struggled to understand why anyone would protect her so fiercely. After years with Michael, she had forgotten what safety felt like. Adrian looked at her intently. Clara, listen to me. This is not your fault. His downfall is the result of his own actions. You didn't do this to him. But Clara wasn't sure. She remembered all the times Michael told her she ruined his life by not being enough. The trauma lingered, coiling in her mind. What if I did push this? She whispered. You didn't. Adrian cupped her face gently. He dug his own grave. Everyone sees that but him. She closed her eyes, letting his touch ground her. For a moment, silence wrapped around them, not heavy like earlier but warm. Steady. Then her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. It's time. He needs to be held accountable. Will you testify? Clara stared at the screen, her heartbeat in her ears. Testify. Tell the world what Michael had done. Tell them how he had broken her, lied about her, punished her for losing their child, and made her believe she wasn't worth loving. Adrian saw the conflict in her eyes. You don't have to decide alone, he said softly. She took a shaky breath. If I testify, everything becomes public. Everything. My past. My trauma. Sophie. He sat beside her again, pulling her gently into his arms. And if you don't, he'll continue hurting people. Just like he hurt you. Maybe worse. Clara trembled. I don't want to relive it. You wouldn't be reliving it, Adrian whispered into her hair. You'd be reclaiming it. She froze. The words pierced something inside her. Reclaiming. Not repeating. Not drowning in it. Owning it. Her breathing steadied. Then a car engine roared in the distance. Loud. Aggressive. Too close. Adrian shot up, rushing to the window. Clara followed him, heart hammering. Through the trees bordering the estate, she saw headlights swerving violently. Michael's car. He honked, shouting incoherently, slamming the steering wheel. "He's losing it," Clara whispered, horrified. Adrian turned to her, grabbing her shoulders gently but urgently. "Go to the safe room. Now." "What about you?" "I'll handle this." "No," she whispered, tears blurring her vision. "Adrian, I can't lose you. Not now. Not after everything." He cupped her cheek one last time, his voice steady and soft. "You won't lose me. But I won't let him come near you. Ever." Guards rushed into the hallway. Adrian nodded sharply. "Get her inside. Don't let her out until I say so." Clara's heart raced wildly as they guided her away. Before the door closed, she heard Adrian's voice echo. "He's not getting near her. Not today. Not ever again." The lock clicked. Clara sank against the wall of the safe room, breath shaking. She wasn't the scared woman she once was, but today she realized something. Michael wasn't just losing control. He was about to face justice. And she was no longer powerless. Outside, the shouting grew louder. Clara whispered to her unborn child. "Hold on. This ends soon. I promise." The guard slammed the steel door behind her, leaving Clara alone in the safe room, heart racing, breaths sharp and uneven. The room was warm, softly lit, meant to feel calming, but tonight it felt like a cage. A protective one, yes, but a cage nonetheless. She pressed her palms against her stomach, trying to steady the tremor in her hands. The baby responded with a soft flutter, almost as though sensing her fear. "It's okay," she whispered. "We're okay. Daddy's out there." But even as she said it, a cold shiver moved down her spine. Michael's voice outside had been feral, completely untethered from reality. She knew that tone. She had lived with it, slept beside it for years. That was the sound he made when he abandoned reason and turned into someone she couldn't reach, couldn't understand, couldn't calm. Someone dangerous. Her pulse thudded in her ears. She strained to listen through the reinforced walls. Faint shouting. Car revving. A guard barking orders. Boots running across gravel. And then Adrian's voice. Firm. Sharp. Controlled. But furious. She couldn't hear the words, only the tone. And that alone made something inside her twist painfully. She remembered another night. Years ago. Long before she knew Adrian existed. She had been 6 months pregnant with her daughter Sophie then, sitting at the top of the stairs while Michael tore apart the living room below because she had forgotten to warm his dinner. He had smashed a vase, thrown a glass against the wall, shouted about how she made him into a monster. And she had stayed frozen. Afraid that moving would make him angrier. Afraid that speaking would provoke him. Afraid that surviving him might be impossible. Now, standing alone in the safe room at the Sterling estate, she realized how deeply he'd conditioned her to fear his outbursts. Her hands shook as she gripped the edges of the polished counter. She wasn't that woman anymore, but her body still remembered. A loud crash outside jolted her. She gasped, covering her mouth. Then silence. A heavy, suffocating silence that made her want to scream. "Adrian," she whispered. "Please be okay." The door didn't open. No footsteps approached. No updates. Nothing. Minutes passed. Then maybe more. The clock on the wall ticked softly, but time felt warped, stretching, twisting, bending around her fear. Paste. Saturday. Paced again. Every second tightened the coil inside her chest. She grabbed her phone even though there was no signal in the safe room. Reflex. Habit. Oh. Nothing. Clara pressed her forehead against the door. "Please. Me know. Someone. Anyone." Still nothing. Her breath caught as the baby shifted beneath her ribs. Not the soft flutter she'd felt earlier. This time it felt like discomfort. Press. No, 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 she whispered, rubbing gently. Not now, sweetheart. Please don't be scared. The anxiety crawling through her skin had nowhere to go. Her heart pounded so hard she felt it in her throat. And then footsteps, heavy, approaching fast. Clara lifted her head. The lock turned. Her breath froze. The door opened, and Adrian appeared, chest rising and falling, hair damp with sweat, jaw clenched tight. Clara sagged with relief so sharp it almost hurt. But the moment she saw his eyes, dark, blazing, storming, her knees went weak. He stepped inside and shut the door behind him. He didn't speak. He couldn't. The fury in him was too raw, too fresh. Clara rushed toward him. Are you hurt? Did he? He caught her gently but firmly by the arms. I'm fine. His voice was low, ragged. You're what matters. Are you okay? Did the stress hurt you? Did anything happen? Any pain, any dizziness, anything at all? His hands trembled slightly against her skin. She had never seen Adrian shaken. Not once. But tonight, he was barely holding himself together. I'm fine, she whispered, cupping his face. Just scared. His breath left him in a shudder. He pulled her into his chest, holding her as though she were the only thing tethering him to the ground. She wrapped her arms around him, grounding herself in his warmth. His heartbeat hammered against her ear. What happened? She whispered. Adrian didn't answer right away. Instead, he pressed a kiss to her forehead, slow, lingering, almost desperate. Then he spoke, voice calm but trembling beneath the surface. He tried to ram the gates. Clara's breath hitched. He was screaming, Adrian continued, jaw tightening. About betrayal. About you. About losing everything. He swallowed, fury burning through his voice. He said if he was going down, you'd go with him. Clara's stomach lurched. She felt the room tilt slightly. He didn't get close, Adrian said quickly, gripping her tighter. Security handled it. They have him restrained. Police are on the way. He's not coming near you. Clara hid her face in his chest, tears burning her eyes. The memory of Michael's voice, his threats, the way he used to stand too close. Those shadows clawed at her even from a distance. Adrian stroked her hair, whispering softly. He can't hurt you anymore. Not ever. She stayed there for a long moment, letting the truth sink in. Letting his arms remind her that she was loved now. Protected. When she finally lifted her head, Adrian brushed a tear from her cheek. There's more, he said. Her breath paused. More. He nodded. Your testimony. It might not be optional anymore. Clara stared at him. Because of what happened tonight. And everything leaking online. He held her hands gently, cautiously. Clara. The world is seeing the man he is. But only you can confirm the man he was. She swallowed hard. Your voice, Adrian whispered, is the one thing he can't silence. Clara's heart clenched. For years Michael had dictated her reality. But now she had a different choice. She wasn't powerless. She wasn't alone. And maybe finally she was ready. She took a slow breath. When do they need me? Adrian didn't smile. Didn't celebrate. He simply nodded once, as if acknowledging the bravery she had just chosen. Tomorrow morning, he said quietly. With the investigators. Clara exhaled shakily. Okay. But then the baby kicked hard, sharp enough to make her gasp. Adrian's eyes widened. What happened? He's scared, Clara whispered, placing his hand on her stomach. I think he feels everything. Adrian lowered his forehead to hers, voice breaking. He's safe. Both of you are safe. I swear it. Clara closed her eyes. Tomorrow she would face the truth. Tonight, she clung to the man who had given her something she never thought she'd have again. A life not ruled by fear. Future not dictated by pain. And the courage to finally speak. Stay with me, she whispered. Adrian tightened his hold. Always. Rain hammered the windshield as Michael sped toward the estate he once mocked without realizing his wife, now ex-wife, now lived inside it. The wipers slapped furiously, but his mind was louder, colliding thoughts, a rising panic he refused to name. He kept telling himself this couldn't be real. Clara couldn't have truly left him. She couldn't have actually remarried. Pregnant wives don't walk away. They don't upgrade. They don't choose billionaires over the men who built their lives with them, right? Lightning flashed, and for a moment his own reflection glared back at him from the glass. Eyes wild, jaw tight, desperation written in every tense muscle. He hated it. Hated that she had the audacity to move on. Hated that she dared to glow beside another man. Hated that she was no longer the woman who used to freeze when he walked into a room. Because that woman, he could control. The one he saw today. The one who looked straight through him as if he was a stranger splashing mud on her. He feared her. He would never admit it aloud. But he felt it. The same car that soaked her still carried the smell of his mistress' perfume. Sweet, sticky, suffocating. Ava sat beside him now, chewing gum loudly. "You're really gonna beg her?" She scoffed without looking up from her phone. "Michael, she's got a billionaire wrapped around her finger. She's probably laughing at you right now." His grip tightened on the wheel. "She's my wife." Ava rolled her eyes. "She was." Past tense. "Let her go." He didn't respond because he couldn't tell Ava the truth. He couldn't let go. Not because of love. But because Clara taking back her life meant he would have to face the truth about himself. The truth she used to shield him from. Without her silence, without her loyalty, without her soft voice explaining away his rage. He was exposed. Vulnerable. And men like Michael don't know how to be small. He turned onto the private road leading up to the estate. The massive gates were half shrouded by fog, glowing faintly under the security lights. He slowed, heart pounding like he'd reached the edge of a cliff. He didn't know the guard was already watching. Didn't know a security camera had already zoomed in on his license plate. Didn't know Adrian, Clara's new husband, was already being notified. Inside the mansion, Clara had just finished drying off when Adrian appeared in the doorway of their bedroom. She saw the tension in his posture before he spoke. "He's on the way here." For a moment the world went still. Clara had imagined facing Michael again, but imagining was different from the reality now pounding at her chest. She put a hand on her belly, breathing deeply, grounding herself in the tiny heartbeat she carried. Adrian stepped closer. "You don't have to face him. I'll handle it." But Clara shook her head. "I need to see him. I need him to understand that I'm done being afraid." Her voice surprised even her. Steady, calm, almost cold. 'Cause she was done. Done shrinking. Done apologizing. Done being the one who suffered so others could feel powerful. "Just remember," Adrian said softly, "you're not alone anymore. He can't hurt you here." For a second, a flicker of old fear rose in her eyes. The kind of fear that lived in bones after years of soft-spoken cruelty disguised as love. But she swallowed it back. "I know," she whispered. Outside, Michael pulled up to the gate and honked. Twice, loud, impatient. The guard approached cautiously. "Sir, can I help you?" Michael leaned out the window, rain soaking his face. "My wife lives here." "Open the gate." "Name?" "Clara. Clara Turner." The guard didn't blink. "There's no one by that name here." Michael's nostrils flared. "Clara. Wait. She lives here now." "Open the gate." Ava sank lower in her seat, embarrassed. The guard calmly tapped his earpiece. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to turn around." Michael laughed, sharp, manic. "I'm not leaving until I see her." He stepped out of the car. Rain drenched him within seconds. He slammed the door and walked right up to the gate, gripping the metal bars. "Clara!" he shouted into the storm. "Clara! Come out!" Inside the house, Clara heard the faint echoes of her name carried by thunder. Every memory she'd buried surged up like a breaking dam, The night he locked her outside because dinner was cold. The time he threw her phone against the wall for texting her sister. The moment she told him she was pregnant and he said, "I hope it's a boy. Girls are just emotional trouble." Suddenly she wasn't just shaking from fear. She was shaking from rage. Something awakened inside her. Something she didn't have before. She walked past Adrian, past the guards, past the long hall that felt more like protection than walls. Her steps were slow, deliberate, echoing with a power she didn't recognize in herself until now. As she approached the front entrance, her hand hesitated on the doorknob. But only for a second. Then she opened the door. Rain and wind spilled inside, carrying Michael's voice with it. His shouting stopped when he saw her. For the first time in their entire marriage. He froze. Clara stepped out onto the porch, her gaze steady, lightning illuminating her silhouette. Michael whispered, "Clara, you came." Her response was soft, but it cut sharper than any scream. "I didn't come for you. I came to end this." And somewhere, behind the storm, behind the fear, behind the shattered pieces of who she used to be, Clara felt something she'd been denied for years. Control. If you've ever fought to reclaim your voice, if you've ever escaped someone who tried to break you, then you know exactly what this moment feels like. And if you want to see Clara completely finish what she started, subscribe. Don't miss the moment she finally gets her justice. Michael swallowed hard, rain dripping down his face like sweat. "And what?" he whispered. Clara took one slow step forward. "Our past." Michael stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. Not the woman he used to command, not the wife he expected to obey, but a stranger with a fire in her eyes he couldn't put out. Rain ran down his forehead, mixing with something else he would never admit was fear. "Clara," he said again, softer now, as if gentleness could undo years of cruelty. Let's talk." Alone. Adrian appeared in the doorway behind her. Silent but unmovable. The sight made Michael's jaw clench. He hated how natural it looked. Clara standing in front of that mansion, Adrian standing guard behind her like he'd always been part of her world. Clara did not look back at Adrian. She didn't need to. She finally had someone who didn't need her fear to feel powerful. "No," she said, her voice almost steady. "We're not doing this alone." Michael's expression cracked. "You're choosing him over me." "Over you." Her eyes narrowed, not angry, just done. "I'm choosing myself." The guard took a step closer, waiting for Adrian's signal. Ava slowly ducked out of the car with her purse over her head, clearly regretting every decision that led her here. Michael took a step closer to the gate. "Clara, listen to me. Whatever you think you saw today, I saw exactly what you are," she cut in. "I saw the man who cheated, who lied, who belittled me, who told me I was lucky to have him because no one else would want a quiet girl with no family." Michael flinched. "Clara, I didn't mean." "You meant all of it," she whispered. "And you know it." Ava let out a long sigh, bored and irritated. "Michael, can we go? You're embarrassing yourself. And me." Michael snapped. "Shut up." The outburst echoed across the estate. The guard immediately moved forward, and Adrian's jaw tightened. Clara didn't even flinch. That was what told Michael the truth. She didn't fear him anymore. That realization hit him harder than losing her. "Clara," he said again, but now his voice had lost its confidence. "We can fix this. Can change. Just come home." "You mean your apartment?" she asked quietly. "The one I paid rent for while you spent your salary on Ava's handbags." Ava's eyes widened. "Michael, what?" Clara's voice didn't rise. It didn't break. It didn't even tremble. "I stayed with you for years because I thought loyalty meant forgiving pain. Because I thought love meant not giving up." She breathed out shakily. "But loving you was killing me." Michael stepped closer, hands gripping the bars. "Clara, please. I'm begging you." It was a strange sight. This man who used to mock the word begging, who used to say men never bow, now hunched in the rain pleading with a woman who once trembled at the sound of his footsteps. Clara took another small step forward. Not out of love but closure. You had every chance, she said softly. Every day. Every tear. Every night I fell asleep hoping tomorrow would be different. He blinked fast. I didn't know you felt that way. You didn't care to know. Eva scoffed. This is pathetic. She's pregnant, Michael. And clearly moving up in life. Let her go before you look even more desperate. Clara's eyes snapped toward her, sharp as glass. You, she said, not raising her tone, should be thanking me. Eva frowned. For what? For leaving him, Clara whispered. Because men like him don't change. They just pick a new target. Eva went pale. Adrian took a slow step forward, not touching Clara, but close enough to make Michael's control slip completely. So this is it, Michael whispered. Clara nodded once. This is it. Michael's breathing hitched, part anger, part heartbreak, part wounded pride. He slammed a hand against the gate, rattling the steel. You can't erase me, he shouted. You can't pretend I never mattered. Clara's voice was calm. You did matter. Just not anymore. Michael opened his mouth to yell again, but then the mansion lights shifted. A black car pulled up the driveway behind Clara. Sleek, tinted windows, the kind of vehicle that only billionaires used for close protection. 2 security personnel stepped out, umbrellas ready, scanning the surroundings with swift, trained eyes. Ava's gum fell out of her mouth. Michael took a stumbling step backward. Clara didn't even turn to look. She didn't have to. This was her new life. A life Michael had never imagined she could reach. A life he thought she didn't deserve. A life she had earned with pain he caused. A life she was finally strong enough to protect. One of the guards spoke softly into his mic. Ma'am, we're ready for you. Michael shook his head. No. No, Clara, please. Please don't walk away. Clara felt her throat tighten. Not from love. From closure. From freedom. You walked away from us years ago, she whispered. I'm just catching up. He turned. The simple act broke Michael more than any scream could have. As she walked toward the waiting car, the rain softened. Not enough to calm the storm, but enough to feel like a sigh of relief. Adrian moved beside her, not leading, not pushing, matching her pace. Michael's voice cracked behind them. Clara, don't do this, don't leave me alone. He paused. One breath. 1 second. One final truth. You were alone long before I left. If you've ever fought for the courage to walk away, if you've ever reclaimed your worth from someone who tried to erase it, you know exactly how hard this moment hits. And if you want to see Clara finally expose everything Michael has been hiding for years, don't miss the next part. Subscribe so you don't lose the moment everything changes. The gate slowly began to close. Michael dropped to his knees. Ava backed away from him like he was something contagious. And Clara, she didn't look back. The gate clanged shut, cutting Michael off from Clara with a final metallic echo that seemed to ricochet inside his skull. He knelt in the mud, rain slapping his face, his breath ragged, as if someone had just torn the ground out from under him. For the first time in his life, he felt what Clara had lived with for years: helplessness. He didn't know how to handle it. Didn't know how to breathe through it. Didn't know how to survive it. Ava took a cautious step backward, her high heels sinking into the mud. I'm going home, she muttered. This is too much drama. Michael didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't acknowledge her at all. Michael, she tried again. Nothing. She turned and jogged back to the car, muttering under her breath. She didn't even look back as she got in and peeled away, tires skidding through the rain. Michael remained on his knees long after the sound of her engine disappeared. Clara had walked away from him 1,000 times in his nightmares. He never once imagined she'd walk away in real life. Inside the mansion, Clara changed into dry clothes while Adrian watched her with careful eyes. Not hovering, not smothering, but present. Protective. A quiet anchor to the storm she'd just faced. You handled that with strength I wish you never had to develop, Adrian murmured. Clara sat on the edge of the bed, her hands tracing slow circles over her belly. I didn't feel strong. That's usually what strength feels like, he said gently. Quiet, steady, uncertain, but still moving forward. She looked up at him, eyes softening. Thank you for standing beside me. You don't have to thank me for that, he said. It's my honor. I'll always be here. The words warmed her more deeply than she expected. After everything she'd been through, kindness still surprised her. A guard knocked lightly on the doorframe. Ma'am. The security team finished checking the perimeter. Everything is clear. Clara nodded. Thank you. He hesitated. There's something else. Michael, he's still outside. Her breath caught. Still? Yes, ma'am. He hasn't moved. The storm's getting worse. Do you want us to call emergency services? That twist of guilt, small, fragile, unwanted, pricked at her chest. Old habits die slowly. Adrian gently touched her hand. Clara, you don't owe him a single drop of compassion he never gave you. I know, she whispered. But I'm not like him. Exactly, Adrian said. And that's why you don't have to carry him anymore. Clara closed her eyes, taking a shaky breath. Finally she nodded. Let the guards handle it, she said softly. I don't want to see him again. Outside, 2 guards approached Michael cautiously. The storm winds whipped around them, lightning tearing across the sky. Sir, one guard said. You need to leave. Now. Michael didn't respond. Sir, the second guard said more firmly. You cannot stay here. Michael lifted his head slowly. His eyes were red, not from the rain. He stood unsteadily, swaying slightly. Tell her, his voice cracked. Tell Clara I'm not leaving until she forgives me. That's not going to happen, the guard said bluntly. She has made her position clear. You need to go. Michael shook his head. She'll come out. She has to. But she wasn't coming. Not tonight. Not ever. The guards exchanged a look. They had dealt with desperate men before. Men who thought love and ownership meant the same thing. One guard stepped forward. Sir, this is your last warning. Michael's eyes flared with sudden anger. She is my wife. Lightning struck a tree nearby, splitting it in half with a deafening crack. The guards flinched, but Michael didn't move. He was unraveling. And Clara wasn't there to hold the pieces together anymore. The guards finally took him by the arms. Not roughly, but firmly enough to make it clear this was over. You need to leave the property, one said. Michael struggled, his voice breaking. Clara! Clara! Thunder swallowed his scream. Inside, Clara stood at the window, curtains drawn back just enough for her to see him being escorted away. She pressed a hand to the glass, her breath fogging the surface. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shaking. She was grieving. Not for him, but for the years she lost. The parts of herself she abandoned. The strength she buried to survive him. Adrian approached quietly. You don't have to watch. I know, she whispered. But I need to see this. I need to see the moment I finally let go. A tear slid down her cheek. Not sadness. Release. Relief. The guard led Michael down the driveway. His legs buckled once, almost sending him onto the pavement. Clara closed her eyes. This is the end, she whispered to herself. But she was wrong. It wasn't the end. Because as the guards forced Michael off the estate, something else was beginning. A fire inside him. A desperation twisted into obsession. A refusal to let Clara belong to someone else. And a secret from Clara's past, one she never dared speak, that would soon resurface and change everything. If you've ever rebuilt your life only to have your past claw its way back, you know what comes next. If you want to see the twist Clara never saw coming, subscribe so you don't miss the next explosive part. Clara woke up the next morning with sunlight pouring through the curtains, warming her face, scattering the memories of last night's storm, but not erasing them. Nothing could erase the image of Michael on his knees in the rain. Nothing could erase how close she'd come to breaking again. Adrian was already awake, sitting beside her, scrolling through something on his tablet with a tense jaw. He tried to soften his expression when she looked over, but she could feel the shift in the room. "What happened?" she asked quietly. He hesitated. "Clara, you need to see this." Her heart skipped. Adrian turned the tablet around. There on the screen was a video posted just hours ago, already nearing 4 million views. A shaky recording from one of the guards' body cams, and another from a random driver passing by the mansion. Clara swallowed hard as the footage played. Michael screaming her name, soaked in mud and rain, being dragged away while yelling, "She is my wife." The comments were brutal. "He deserves jail. What kind of monster screams at a pregnant woman like that? Clara deserves peace. She upgraded. Stay away from her. Protect Clara at all costs." Clara felt her head spin. "Oh my God. It's gone viral," Adrian said softly. "You're trending on every platform." She pressed a hand to her forehead. "I never wanted this." "I know." Adrian placed the tablet down. "But you didn't cause it." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed again and again. Calls from unknown numbers. Messages. Notifications. The world had grabbed her story and refused to let go. And then a sharp knock came from the hallway. Lawrence Sterling stepped in. Even at 70, he carried a presence that filled the room. Controlled, calm, dangerous when he needed to be. He looked at Clara with that mixture of protectiveness and respect she'd never received from a man before entering this family. "Are you all right, my dear?" he asked. Clara nodded slowly. "Just overwhelmed." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "We'll manage the media storm. PR is already handling it. But there's something you both need to know." Clara's stomach tightened. Lawrence took a folded sheet of paper from his inner pocket and handed it to Adrian, who read it once, his eyes sharp and darkening. He handed it to Clara silently. Clara unfolded it. Her heart stopped. Legal notice. Filed at dawn. Michael Blackwell, her ex-husband, was petitioning the court for marital reconciliation, claiming their divorce was invalid due to emotional instability at the time of filing. He was trying to undo her divorce. Trying to reclaim her. Trying to force his way back into her life legally. Clara's breath shattered. He can't be serious." Lawrence's voice hardened. "He is. And his lawyer claims you were not in a stable mental state during the separation, which could overturn the previous ruling." Clara's vision blurred. "He's trying to trap me." "He won't succeed," Adrian said instantly, taking her hand. "I will not allow it." Lawrence stepped closer. "Clara, this isn't just obsession anymore. This is calculated. Someone is guiding him." Clara flinched. "Ava." Adrian frowned. "His mistress." Clara nodded. "She always hated me. Always said I didn't fit Michael's world. She pushed him into everything." Lawrence folded his arms. "She's ambitious, desperate, and clever enough to weaponize Michael's downfall for her benefit." The room grew colder. Clara whispered. "So they want me back in his life to fix his reputation?" "No," Lawrence said quietly. "They want to drag you down with him so he rises again." Clara's pulse hammered. "But I'm married to Adrian now. They can't erase that." And then Lawrence said something that made the air vanish from her lungs. "They can try. If the court temporarily suspends your divorce from Michael, your marriage to Adrian becomes legally void until a ruling is made." Clara felt the world tilt sideways. Void. Legal. As if her new life never happened. As if her love, her peace, her safety, her future, could be ripped away by a man who once destroyed her. Adrian moved to her instantly, pulling her gently against his chest. "Clara, listen to me. None of this will happen. My family's influence, our lawyers, our team. Michael doesn't stand a chance." She clung to him, shaking. "He wants to ruin me." "No," Adrian said with quiet fury. "He wants to own you again. But he never will." Clara closed her eyes. And that was when it hit her. The memory she had buried so deep she prayed it would never surface. A secret she never told Adrian. A secret she never told anyone. Not even the therapist she saw during her darkest nights. A secret that could empower Michael's petition. A secret that could tear apart everything she rebuilt. She whispered, almost inaudible, "There's something I need to tell you." Adrian froze, pulling back just enough to see her face. "Clara, what is it?" Her voice trembled. "Before the divorce, before I left Michael, something happened. Something I never told the court." Lightning flashed silently outside, even though the storm had already passed. Adrian looked into her eyes, and he saw it. The truth. The fear. The guilt. And the kind of pain that doesn't fade with time. The twist she'd spent years hiding. "Clara," he said softly. "Tell me." She inhaled sharply. But before she could speak, another guard rushed in, breathless. "Sir, ma'am, Michael is trending again. A new video has just leaked. And this one changes everything. If you've ever held onto a secret that could destroy everything you've built, only to realize someone else might expose it first, you know exactly how this moment feels. If you're still here, subscribe so you don't miss what comes next." Clara's spine turned to ice as the guard held out a phone, the screen already lit, the video already loading. Adrian took it from him, jaw tightening, and Lawrence moved closer. His expression carved from stone. The video began with shaky footage. A woman's voice, Ava's voice, sniffling dramatically as she positioned the camera toward her face. Her mascara was smudged, her hair purposely undone. Her voice trembling just enough to sound believable. "Hi everyone," Ava began, sniffing again. I didn't want to speak out. Not like this. But I'm scared. I'm scared for Michael. And I'm scared for myself." Clara felt her stomach twist. Ava continued. "I know the internet hates him right now. Get it. I know the clip looks bad. But what no one understands, what no one knows, is that Michael isn't the villain here." Adrian narrowed his eyes. "She's good. Calculated. Manipulative." Clara's throat closed. She knew that tone. It had fooled her once too. Ava swallowed dramatically. "The truth is, Michael has been suffering for years because of Clara. She never told anyone what she did. She never told the truth about why they divorced." Adrian's face hardened. Lawrence's expression didn't shift, but something in the air did. Ava lifted a shaking hand to her chest. Clara wasn't the victim. Michael was. She abused him emotionally. She threatened him. She manipulated him. And the night before she left, she did something unforgivable. Clara gasped. Adrian looked at her instantly, but she couldn't breathe. Ava pressed on, voice cracking. Clara tried to hurt herself and blame Michael for it. She said she'd ruin him. She said she'd destroy his career if he didn't stay with her. She even filed false reports. "That's enough." Adrian exited the video with pure fury. "She's trying to flip the narrative." Clara's hands trembled violently. She wasn't even there. She didn't know what happened that night. Lawrence's eyes narrowed. So something did happen. Clara shook her head, tears sliding down her face as the room spun. I wanted to tell you. Both of you. I didn't know how." Adrian knelt in front of her, taking her shaking hands gently. "Clara, look at me." She lifted her eyes, terrified. "You are safe. Whatever happened, whatever you say next, I'm here." Clara drew a shaky breath, but it broke halfway through. "I didn't try to hurt myself," she whispered. "I would never ever do that." Adrian's expression softened. "But something did happen the night before I left Michael. Something I've never talked about." Her voice is barely audible. "Because I was ashamed. Because I didn't want anyone to think I was weak." Lawrence stepped closer, his voice low. "Clara, weakness is staying silent. Strength is speaking." She squeezed her eyes shut. "Michael locked me in the bathroom." Adrian's jaw clenched. Hard. Clara continued, voice trembling. He took my phone. He smashed things. He kept yelling that I embarrassed him, that I made him look pathetic. He told me he wished I'd never gotten pregnant, that the miscarriage was a blessing because I wasn't fit to be a mother. Adrian's hands tightened around hers. Clara inhaled shakily. I tried to leave. I opened the door to run, but he grabbed my arm. Hard. I pulled away and fell. I hit my head on the sink. A single tear slid down Adrian's cheek. Clara whispered. When I got up there was blood. And he panicked. He didn't want to call help. He said if the police found out, his career would be finished. He begged me not to tell. He cried. The only time he ever cried. He shuddered. I left the next morning. I didn't report it. Couldn't. I thought I'd look crazy. He said no one would believe me. Adrian's voice broke with quiet rage. Clara, my love. You went through that alone. She nodded helplessly. Lawrence exhaled sharply, a dangerous calm settling over him. This changes everything. The fact that you didn't report it. That's exactly why he thinks he can twist it. Clara sobbed softly. He's turning my silence into a weapon. Ava wasn't there. She's lying. Adrian stood slowly, lifting Clara with him, holding her as if he were shielding her from the world. Clara, listen to me. No matter what they release, no matter what lies they spread, you are not alone anymore. You have me. You have this family. And we will burn their entire campaign to the ground. At that moment, another notification pinged. Lawrence looked down at his phone, and his eyes widened. What now? Adrian asked sharply. Lawrence turned the screen to him. Michael Blackwell had just posted a follow-up video. 500,000 views in 6 minutes. The caption read, My truth. The truth Clara never wanted the world to hear. Clara froze. Oh God, she whispered. The video thumbnail showed Michael staring into the camera. Eyes red, face broken, looking like the tragic victim Ava had painted him to be. If you've ever had someone twist your pain into their weapon, you know this is only the beginning. If you're invested in Clara's fight, subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. The air in the courtroom felt heavier than anything Clara had endured in the past 6 years. She sat beside Adrian, her billionaire husband who had never once hesitated to stand between her and pain, while Michael and Ava were escorted in by guards, wrists in cuffs, eyes wild with shock, like they still couldn't believe the consequences had finally caught up to them. The gallery was packed. Reporters. Victims Michael had wronged. People who had followed Clara's story online after Adrian's company quietly leaked the video of the mud incident. Not showing her face, but showing the cruelty Michael and Ava had displayed. People were furious. People wanted justice. And today, they would finally get it. Michael scanned the room until his eyes landed on Clara. He flinched. Not because she stared back at him, but because she didn't avoid him. For the first time in his life, he had to look straight into the eyes of the woman he threw away like trash, now wrapped in quiet power, strength, dignity, and unshakable protection. Adrian slid his hand onto hers under the table, his thumb brushing her knuckles. You're safe, he whispered. Clara exhaled slowly. The judge entered. Everyone rose. Michael swallowed as the charges were read out. Assault, endangerment, aggravated negligence, financial fraud, falsifying documents, and finally, attempted coercion of a pregnant woman. Every charge hit like a hammer. Ava trembled beside him. No makeup could hide the panic in her face. Clara kept her breathing steady. The prosecutor called her to the stand. Adrian stood with her until the last legal moment, then let go. Clara walked forward with a Clara Michael had never seen, because he never let her shine. She took her seat, placed a hand on her slightly rounded belly, and faced the courtroom. No tears. No breakdown. Just truth. She told them everything. The neglect. The cheating. The humiliation. The night he locked her out in the rain while pregnant. The mud. The insults. The threats. The years of shrinking herself to fit a man who never deserved her. Her voice didn't crack once. People in the room wiped tears. Michael shifted in his seat, sweating. Ava stared at her lap. When Clara finished, she added one last line, a line that silenced the room. You don't have to stay with the people who break you. Someone out there will treat your heart like something priceless. Please, don't waste years waiting to be loved. If this story hurts you, it's because you deserve better. And yes, subscribe for more stories like this, so you never forget your worth. Even the judge paused. It landed hard. Clara stepped down from the stand, and Adrian rose, wrapping an arm around her waist as she returned to her seat. Michael avoided her eyes. Ava cried silently. The judge returned after deliberation. Everyone stood. The judge's voice was firm, controlled, but there was a thread of disgust woven into his tone as he delivered the verdict. Michael Turner, you are hereby sentenced to 12 years in federal prison without the possibility of early parole. Michael's knees buckled. Gasps filled the room. Additionally, the judge continued, you are ordered to repay all financial damages to Clara Sterlings and compensate her for emotional distress and endangerment. Michael's mouth opened, no sound came out. Then he was dragged away. Ava sobbed uncontrollably as she received her own sentence. 3 years for participation in the assault and falsification of records. Justice. Real. Undeniable. Clara leaned into Adrian's chest as Michael disappeared through the side doors. It's over, Adrian whispered. Clara nodded against him. No, she said softly. It's beginning. He kissed the top of her head, gentle, unhurried, full of relief that she was finally free. Outside the courthouse, the sunlight was warm, golden, almost symbolic. People approached her, thanking her for speaking up, for giving them courage. Clara held her belly, smiling as Adrian placed a hand over hers. Their baby kicked. Fresh start. A real family. A peaceful life finally allowed to bloom. Adrian opened the door of the car for her, but Clara paused, turning back to the courthouse, her past, one last time. She didn't feel bitterness. She didn't feel fear. Just closure. She whispered, goodbye. Then she got into the car. As they drove away, Adrian intertwined their fingers, bringing her hand to his lips. You're free now, he said. Clara smiled softly. No, she corrected. I'm finally living. And this time, she truly was. As Clara and Adrian's car disappeared into the glow of the late afternoon sun, one truth settled over the story like a final, steady heartbeat. No matter how deep the betrayal, no matter how painful the past, a woman who chooses herself, a woman who survives, cannot be defeated. Clara didn't just win in court. She won her freedom, her dignity, her future, and a love that actually felt like love. She proved that sometimes God removes people from your life because He heard conversations you didn't. And if you're watching this right now, maybe this story found you for a reason. Maybe you've tolerated disrespect for too long. Maybe you've cried in silence for years. Maybe you've been waiting for someone to change, while losing pieces of yourself. Let Clara's final victory be your reminder. You deserve gentleness. You deserve loyalty. You deserve peace. And you deserve to be chosen without being hurt first. If this story hit your heart, if it made you think of your worth, if it reminded you that healing is possible, then don't leave just yet. Subscribe so you never forget the truth you just felt. Subscribe for more stories that strengthen you. Subscribe because the next chapter of your healing might begin with the next video. Your heart matters. Your peace matters. Your story isn't over. And I'll be here to tell it with you.